So thank you for joining us this Friday for our last Devo of the week as we are wrapping up our time looking at eternal life and looking at John chapter 3. And so a very familiar passage that we're going to look at today in John 3:16, which reads, "For God loved the world in this way, that he gave his one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life." And so that eternal life, right, Jesus has finally brought everything to fruition. This conversation that we've been following since verse 5 of chapter 3, when he is given the analogy of a new birth, and then later this idea of sacrifice, right? That those would have to look, that those who would look for healing would have to look upon Jesus and have faith in him. And he brings all of this to fruition right here in this verse. And we see both of those ideas here, that for God so loved the world in this way, that he gave his one and only Son. He sacrificed his one and only Son. And so while we don't hear from Nicodemus here, you can kind of imagine that those wheels are clicking in his head. Okay, he was saying that the Son of Man would have to be lifted up, that he would have to be sacrificed. And so now he's tying that God loved the world so much that he sacrificed his Son. And he says, so that everyone who believes in him will have eternal life. And so then Nicodemus, remembering in just a few verses ago, that Jesus was talking about this new birth, right? This new life that was birthed in water and in spirit. And so these two ideas are coming together for Nicodemus. And I wish we could see Nicodemus's response right here, and we don't get to. But we know that verse has power in the world today, that so many have heard that word and said, hey man, God has given this great sacrifice for me. And so I'll devote my life to him, and I'll give up all of my desires for his desires. And so what we do know is that Nicodemus does that. And the reason we know that is later in John chapter 19, after Jesus has died, as they get ready to bury him, we see Nicodemus there with Joseph of Arimathea, helping lay Jesus' body to rest, to him using his own wealth to anoint Jesus' body. And it would have been so expensive to do that during that time. Only the wealthy had that opportunity. And so we see Nicodemus using his wealth to do that. We see Nicodemus who at one time came to Christ in secret at night, to later having this very public display of honor and respect and affection for Jesus. And that's because I truly believe that Nicodemus had given his life to Christ, that he had trusted him, that he had believed that he was the only way to eternal life. And so, I know that so many of you have done the same. You've surrendered your life to him. You've submitted your life to him. And so I would just say, man, what are we doing that very publicly demonstrates that to the world around us, much like Nicodemus? And that's really what these questions kind of get at for today's Devo. So but we'll read through those. They say, what happened in Nicodemus' heart that would move him to offer such a gift in honor of Jesus? So you can take a moment and discuss that with your family. And then last, kind of reiterating the question I said a moment ago, how can you demonstrate the same heart? So take a moment with your family, shut the video off, walk through these questions. What could have happened in Nicodemus's life, and how can you demonstrate the same heart? And this is just my suggestion to you as you talk as a family about how you can demonstrate that. Let's really write that down, and let's really make that concrete. Let's figure out how, during this time of uncertainty in these horrible circumstances, how we can demonstrate the heart of Jesus, how we can demonstrate that idea of recognizing what Christ has done for us and sharing that love with the world around us. Church family, more than anything, we want you to know that we love you and we're praying for you. Thank you.